When my parents handed my sister the keys to a luxury downtown apartment, they smiled like they'd just secured her future. When they handed me the papers to a crumbling, abandoned house on the edge of town, they called it a learning opportunity. What none of them realized, they didn't actually know who owned the land beneath that broken house. And by the time they found out, it was too late. If you've ever been compared to a sibling, underestimated, or handed the short end of the stick, stay with me. Because this story, it doesn't end the way anyone expected. My name is Kendra, I'm 27 years old, and I've spent my entire life being the practical one. My older sister Melissa, she was the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect hair, perfect smile. The kind of person who never raised her voice because she never needed to. My parents adored her. Me? I was the stubborn one, the fixer, the girl who asked too many questions. So when they called me into the living room that afternoon, I already knew something was coming. Melissa was sitting between them on the couch, legs crossed, scrolling on her phone like she was waiting for a dinner reservation, not a life announcement. Dad cleared his throat. We've decided to help both our daughters get started properly. Mom smiled, tight, rehearsed. Melissa would be receiving a brand new apartment downtown. Modern building, gym, security, floor-to-ceiling windows. I watched my sister's face glow. Then they turned to me. We're giving you a house. For half a second, my heart lifted. A house meant space, ownership, stability. Then they showed me the photos. The roof sagged like it was tired of existing. Paint peeled in long, curling strips. Windows boarded up. The yard looked like a jungle reclaiming its territory. This has potential, my mom said quickly. You're better with projects. Better with projects. Translation: Melissa deserves comfort. You can work for yours. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Because deep down, I had learned something about my family. Arguing never changed the decision. The house sat on the edge of town. Old industrial area, half forgotten. When I stepped inside for the first time, dust floated in the sunlight like tiny ghosts. The floors creaked under my weight. A cracked mirror hung in the hallway, reflecting a version of me that looked smaller than I felt. I should have felt insulted. But instead, I felt curious. Because something didn't add up. My parents weren't sentimental. They didn't do fixer-uppers. Why this house? Why here? Meanwhile, Melissa moved into her luxury apartment. Her Instagram filled with rooftop selfies and lat art. Our parents visited her weekly. They visited me once. And Mom couldn't stop coughing from the dust. 3 weeks into cleaning the house, I found something strange. Inside an old filing cabinet buried in the basement. Most papers were junk. But one envelope, thick, sealed, caught my attention. It was addressed to my grandfather, dated decades ago. Inside, original land registry documents. Not house documents. Land documents. I froze. Because the owner listed on the original purchase deed wasn't my parents. It wasn't even my grandfather. It was a trust. And the trust beneficiary? My name? I sat on the basement floor for what felt like hours. Heart pounding. The land beneath the house had been placed into a trust the year I was born. And according to the document, it transferred fully to me at 27. My current age. The house itself was nearly worthless. But the land? Prime redevelopment zone. Recently rezoned for commercial expansion. I grabbed my phone and searched city planning records. My stomach flipped. A new tech park was approved, less than 2 blocks away. Property values were projected to triple within 2 years. Triple way. Suddenly, the broken roof didn't look like punishment. It looked like camouflage. I hired a lawyer quietly. Didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell Melissa. The documents were legitimate, legally binding. The land was mine. And here's the part that made my hands shake. My parents had no authority to sell it, which meant they either didn't know or they assumed I wouldn't check. 2 months later, a development company knocked on my door. They were buying adjacent lots. When I told them I owned the land outright, their tone changed instantly. They offered a number. I didn't react. They increased it. I still didn't react. By the third offer, my dilapidated burden had turned into a 7-figure asset. The day I signed the preliminary agreement, Melissa called, crying. Apparently, her apartment building had financial issues. The developer had over-leveraged. Foreclosure proceedings had started. Residents were being asked to vacate within months. My parents were furious. How could this happen? My mom kept repeating. Because sometimes shiny things aren't stable. Sometimes foundations matter more than appearance. They came to visit me that evening. For the first time, they looked around the old house differently. Not with pity, with calculation. Dad cleared his throat. So, how's the project coming? I slid a copy of the land valuation across the table. Silence. Melissa blinked. Mom's lips parted, but no sound came out. Dad read the number twice. That can't be right. It is. The broken house wasn't the gift. The land was. And it had always been mine. Here's what they didn't know. My grandfather had created the trust after overhearing my parents once say, Melissa has more potential. Kendra will be fine on her own. He believed in self-reliance. But he also believed in fairness. So he left Melissa visible comfort. And he left me invisible power. Power they never bothered to investigate. The developer finalized the purchase 6 months later. After taxes and fees, I walked away financially independent. Melissa moved back in with our parents. The golden apartment gone. The golden image cracked. One evening, Mom asked quietly, "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" I looked at her. Because for once, I didn't want to be the comparison. I wanted to be the surprise. Sometimes life doesn't hand you the shiny gift. Sometimes it hands you the ugly one. And sometimes the ugly one is hiding the real treasure. They gave my sister the view. They gave me the foundation. And foundations, they last longer than glass towers. If you enjoyed this twist and want more emotionally satisfying revenge stories like this, hit like and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, if you were me, would you have shared the money? Because trust me, this isn't the last story where appearances were deceiving.